We'll go ahead and get started. Maybe the other two will join us shortly. Hope you've had a good week. Seems like the days go by real fast. There's Kendall. Before we're back together again, and Lord, there's so much going on. And I know, are all of you out of school now? You finished the year. Okay. Any of you working summer programs? I know. I just got through talking with Tracy. Tracy is. Who else is working summer programs? Okay, Carrie is. Okay, Nasmal. Okay, Kendall is. Brandon. Okay, Brandon's here. Okay, I got everybody here. Good. Thank y'all so much. Makes me happy when everybody's present. It doesn't take a lot to make me happy. Well, I guess it does take a lot to make me happy, but that makes me happy. Anyway, Dr. Revis will not be with us tonight. She is on vacation, and where she is, they just don't have good internet stuff. So if you need her, she said, please reach out to her, but she will not be joining us tonight. But that's okay. She doesn't have to be with us every time. Anyway, that's her choice. She chooses to be with us. Let me share my screen and show you basically what I want this evening to look like. And we can always change some things if we need to. We can add. But this is basically what I want it to look like. Then I'm just doing a weekly overview now. I want us to have a good discussion of the Johari window concept and talk about cognitive dissonance. I enjoyed reading your assignment activities and learning some things about all of you again. I learned something every week. I want to spend a little bit of time reviewing our weekly assignments through week 8. Some of you have already worked through some of those, but I specifically want to get through week 8 because of the intensity of week 8 and make sure that you're working on that in advance. Then I'm going to go into, again, the SIAP, task 1, 2, and 3. I'm just going to do a review of that, but I'm going to do introduce task 4 through 6 tonight, so that it doesn't hold anybody back. And then we'll spend time with questions and answers at the end, and anything else that you choose to talk about. So that's basically what we're going to be doing over the next hour. I want to pull this document up. This is actually under week 5, and I don't know if anybody paid attention to this, because a lot of the stuff was under week 4, the activities and things I asked you to look at. But this is actually a PowerPoint on the Johari window, and I'm not going to go over it, but it really does an excellent job of breaking it down and just showing you, what you've done in a just a very simplistic and understandable way. So I wanted to make sure that you knew that was there. And what I would advise you to do is any of these resources that you think that you would use later on, because you will not have access to Blackboard after you graduate, I would download these and I would store them somewhere, and I would have them so that when you are an administrator, that you'll have some resources that you can pull from to work with, with staff development, even looking at yourself. But with that in mind, I want us to talk about the Johari window. And I don't want to regurgitate everything. However, some of it we'll have to talk about. Some of it will be. We'll have to go back and regurgitate some things, but I want us to take it in a different direction in just a few minutes. But who would volunteer just to capsulize in just a few words what the Johari window concept is about? Who would be willing to just volunteer and say something? No volunteer?
I think the Johari window is an exercise to reflect upon yourself in order to become just a better person. It doesn't necessarily have to be a better leader. It could just be a better employee. It could actually be like a better mom or a better friend. It could be used for anything.
Well, that's good. And I'm glad you said that, Libby, because it's a model for self-awareness, personal development, group development, and understanding relationships. So this is really used not just in the field of education. It is used extensively in business and industry. You could use it in a church group if a reading group could say, let's take time to do this. I mean, there's just lots of opportunities to do that. What did you? Somebody talk about this. What was the big thing that you got from this activity? What looking at everything, what was the aha about this, or the big takeaway that you got from this exercise and learning about the Johari window?
This is Stormy. Sorry, I'm very hoarse.
It's okay.
I think my aha and what I learned most was that there are things that I do that I don't realize I do, and that they have meaning, around, because one of the examples in the reading was that he did something when a certain person was talking, and so it made me think about, do I do that to people who aren't my favorite, and is someone else noticing that, and am I just now noticing it? So it just made me really have this self-reflection moment of, are there things that I'm doing that I need to work on? I just need to pay better attention to myself in the future.
Right. Good answer. Somebody else.
I can piggyback off of her because I agree, Stormy, with everything you said. And I also think it made me want to be more intentional with the things that I learned, because I actually did the exercise and sent it to people and got some feedback, and it was really surprising for a lot of things, but it made me really want to be more intentional with how just how I reacted or interacted with people.
Okay.
Dr. Stebbin, I may be way off on this, but I was thinking about this today. Today was day one of a leadership conference that I'm going to with my principal, and she was in charge of presenting one of the sessions. And about 10 minutes before the session started, she said, okay, Melissa, you're going to co-present the session with me. And my heart dropped to my toes. And I said, I'm sorry, what did you say? And she said, yeah, you're going to co-present. I'm going to share the presentation with you. And I perceive myself to just kind of be more timid. I don't really like talking to crowds unless I am prepared. And she said, you don't give yourself enough credit. I see a lot of potential in you. You're really great at this. So the way that she perceives me is different than how I perceive myself and the way that I conduct myself. And I don't see that with the way that I carry myself. And at the end of the presentation, she came up to me and it was in front of 85 other principals in our district. And she was like, you did a really great job. And so it made me go back and reflect upon myself. I wasn't prepared at all. I had the 10 minutes to go over the PowerPoint presentation. And she was like, even though you didn't really have time to prepare, you did a really great job. You need to give yourself more credit, because the things that you do, you don't realize that you do it, but you don't need all of this preparation ahead of time, because you do things naturally that you don't realize that you're doing, and you do better than you realize. And so it really made me think about that. She was like, and I knew that if I gave you time to prepare, it would make you more anxious. That's why I threw it upon you last minute. But at the time, my heart literally just like sank to my toes, and I thought that she was a little crazy.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And just think about it. Now, I heard it. I heard the confidence in your voice. I heard how it built your personal, how you felt better about yourself. I mean, it just built you in many ways. And for her to take the time to do that, and for you to reflect on it, and to you already have realized, so, you know, a lot of things from just that brief encounter about your leadership abilities and things, and it ties directly into this assignment. So, I mean, very timely. Thank you for sharing that, Melissa. Carrie, I hadn't heard a lot from you. I want you to talk.
Thank you for putting me on the spot. I love it.
That's all right, and I do that.
And that's funny because my assistant principal, we actually did our it's called FAMS, where we go through the MTSS process. We had it with the county the other day, and my assistant principal called me out too, because I wasn't contributing enough. And she said, I realize you're a lot like me, that you kind of sit back and you wait, and I am like, I'm listening, and I know what I want to say, but sometimes I don't know.
That's why I called you out. I saw that. I realized it.
Yep, my principal called me out on it too, just this week. But yes, I realize it.
But what did this activity, tell me what this activity meant to you?
Honestly, when I was reading about it, the part where the window where other people realize things about me that I don't know about myself, really made me want to reflect on things and really think about, like when I'm presenting or having one-on-one conversations with people, how they see me and what they get from our conversation. I just would like to be more aware, I guess, of how others perceive me that I don't see about myself.
And you already are, because of what you said about your assistant principal calling you out. You're conscious of it, and you realize that that's something that you probably need to work harder on and to be more open to, you know, these moments. But you realize that, and that is a step in the right direction. And that's what we do as leaders in self-reflection. That's what we do. We realize it, and those areas that are, when we're out of our comfort zone, we really have to work harder. I've been doing it forever. I mean, forever. And I still, believe it or not, I could be considered an introvert sometime. Now, you wouldn't know that about me. But there are times that I possibly could be considered an introvert, but I make myself. And again, nobody knows what's behind my smile. I try not to let on, you know, what's behind myself, but I've learned how to do that over the years. I've learned how to overcome and compensate for some of that, but I don't think I'll ever completely get over it. I'll learn how to handle it and how to deal with it. And I think that's what we all do. Let me see. I have not heard anything from, let's see, that was Carrie. I want to hear from Hannah. Hannah, you there?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
here.
I haven't heard much from Hannah. I need to hear. I
Yeah.
need to hear from my Hannah. Okay.
Hold on. Okay. Yeah, I think I agree with pretty much what everybody's saying. I think there is things that I notice about myself. I think especially too with like the public speaking aspect of it. I know that I can get nervous, and I almost feel like myself. I'm, doing things that I notice within me, but then I'm thinking, well, do other people notice it outwardly, like internally versus externally. I think that too is what I learned. Some things that I am maybe panicking on the inside, no one can really know on the outside. And I think too, like, it's just the self-reflection of finding a way to overcome that part too.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And Kendall, let me hear from you.
Yes. So I do have an example to share. One of the BTs that I kind of took under my wings, she kind of told me one day, she said, "You notice that when something really doesn't make sense, you scratch the back of your head?" And I was like, oh my God, do I really? And she's a beginning teacher, but because she was around me and she saw that leader in me, she kind of like followed pretty much everything I did. And I started to notice it. And I said, I really do that. So this activity really brought that back to my attention, that sometimes you do have to be careful about certain things that you do as a leader, because somebody is always watching, especially if you have those leadership abilities. Somebody is always watching. And then another thing too is that I'm very passionate about education and everything about it. So sometimes as a leader, I get the feedback of, well, maybe you're just a little too abrasive or aggressive. But I see it as being passionate. So, but also you have to still understand that the way that you want it to be perceived might not be that way. So it's not about changing who you are. It's just like doing what you have to do to make sure that what you're saying as a leader is heard. So that's kind of how I look at the activity too. Just kind of like that reflection piece that everyone is talking about.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Kimberlyn, you still there? Okay, she's there. Okay, Kimberlyn, let's talk about the cognitive dissonance aspect of this assignment. All of you had to look at. Well, talk to me about what is cognitive dissonance, and talk about your example of that with an administrator.
Okay, well, cognitive dissonance is a difference between your behavior and your attitude. Let's say if I'm a big advocate for drunk driving, and this actually happened with one of my principals at my school. He was a very big advocate for drunk driving. He actually participated in several different campaigns that we had around campus for no drunk driving when it came to prom or whatever, until his actions, he was caught drinking and driving. And it was kind of like, well, obviously everybody in the school was like, well, we've known for years that, so-and-so, he wasn't, he would come to school drunk and things of that nature. And it was brought out in the open when he was caught, and it was in the newspaper, and he actually lost his job. So cognitive dissonance for me is not basically practicing what you're preaching.
Okay, I was going to use those exact same words. Good example. That's great. Somebody else, and we'll close with this in just in a minute or two. Who else would like to share something that it resonated with you about cognitive dissonance in this assignment? Anybody else? Something that
I think cognitive dissonance and this activity go hand in hand, because cognitive dissonance is, being aware and that internal struggle that you have with knowing what you now know, which could not be good about yourself. So that's exactly what Johari Window does. So maybe someone you think that you are a really good listener, but your employees do not perceive you that way, So when you find this information out, you have this knowledge that you do not like about yourself because you think that you're really great at something, and they are like, no, you're not. So when you take that information, you have to use it in a positive way. You have to look at it and know that the activity is creating this cognitive dissonance, so you can then become better at be a better person, a better leader.
And that's the whole purpose. Yeah, Rachel, you were going to say something?
I was going to add that I actually did this exercise at church last evening. I serve a church, my husband and I, and it was very interesting to see our executive staff, their perception of the way that I handled certain things. And I thought that I was, and I wrote about this too in my reflection, that I was pretty a strong disciplinarian, but when it comes to certain age groups in church, and I think it even translates even to working in school, that I'm a little more passive. And it was just very interesting to hear others' perspective, because I thought I was letting them have it, but in actuality, they were like, "No, you're easier when it comes to handling certain things." So it was very enlightening for me to kind of take into consideration my response to certain things. Am I giving, I guess, enough consequences for certain actions? So.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. And Joshua Rodriguez, I'd like for you to just bring closure to this assignment and just talk about this from a leadership perspective, as an administrator, as an up and coming principal. How will you use this activity to help you grow into leadership?
So that's actually what sticks out in my mind the most about everybody's comments and the exercises and cognitive dissonance altogether, is that it actually causes one to reflect and one to grow. I think if you do not grow, you're showing a bit of ignorance if you don't grow from the activities, because, and that's in the Johari window, there is a window for unknown. And that unknown is something that we always can grow into. There's something that we always can learn, something we can always do and reflect on. And that's what I would use. I enjoyed this activity. That's what I would use going forward. I think it's actually a very great thing if you really want to be successful. I think it's a great thing as an administrator to do at maybe end of, we do as teachers now, we have an end of year conference. We have a end of year review with our principals. It might be good for the leadership team, the SIT team, to do something like this, so that the administrator, that we can reflect and grow on, say, okay, this is something I want to do better next year, or this is something that may improve our success and my effectiveness as a leader. But that was my biggest takeaway from all of it, was that it doesn't matter how great of a leader you are, how competent you are, there's room to grow if you're willing to do so.
All right, thank you for sharing that. And then, from Rachel and from Joshua, can't you see how you could use this even in your ministry?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that goes back to what Libby said. It's not just, you can use it in many situations. You did a great job on this assignment, and I think that all of you are stronger and better from having done this. This is one of those assignments you'll find. I told you the whole semester would be more of a self-reflection. And I think that you're seeing how all of this is tying together and challenging you to look at yourself, to look deeper at yourself. And that's what we're supposed to do. So great job. Let me go back and share my screen again. Let me minimize that, come out of that, and then there it is. I want to go over briefly, just very briefly, let's look at our assignments for the next, and I had said that we were going to look at them for, I keep two screens up all the time so I can see weeks 5 through 8. Let's scroll down and just look at what those assignments look like. And like I said, many of you have already gotten there. But next week, one of the things that you've got to do is from Glickman chapter 9, you're to write a 1-page response identifying your strengths and weaknesses on the supervisory behavior continuum. Again, this is another opportunity to look deeper at yourself and to learn more about you when you look at that supervisory behavior continuum. And then your next assignment is from the Norhouse book, chapter 10. Let's assume that you will be chosen to lead a school one day, and I hope that that's what's going to happen for all of you. I want you to talk about what is servant leadership and how will you apply your knowledge of it to your leadership style. I want you to really, really focus on this assignment and to really do some introspection as you're responding to what is servant leadership. And then assignment 7, again, is another case study. So prepare yourself for that and make sure that you give it the time and that you need to put into it, and really give me some good discussion from this, and some good related to things that you've already done in some of your other classes, as I said earlier. And then assignment 8 is the one that I want to make sure that you are not waiting until the last minute to do. This is the, oh man, I clicked on the wrong thing. There. There. And this is has everybody, is there anybody who has not gotten their book yet? The Strengths-Based Leadership book. Is there anybody that does not have it yet? Okay, good. But just make sure that you're already reading, you're making notes in your book. And I would encourage you to look at these. You're going to find I actually did this activity several years when we first started using that book in 605, and Dr. Lamb accepted it for all 605 classes. But you will find these exact quotes, these exact questions. They will be in the reading in your text. I pulled them directly from it. But the reason I did it like this is because if you read it ahead of time, it gives you, things that you need to really look at and you need to really think about. We've talked about this already, discussed the differences between a leader and a manager, but then this is going to take it a little bit deeper. You're going to learn some more things about what the differences are between a leader and a manager, and you're going to talk about it again with your Zoom group. If you spend your life trying to be good at everything, you will never be great at anything. What does that mean? What does it say? When you read and then you reflect on it, actually, what is the author saying? So I want you to make sure you really think about the things I've asked you to think about in this assignment, and then just know that you're going to come back together. And where there's just 2 of you in a group, I would encourage you to think about possibly joining with another group where there might be 2, so that you can have more of a bigger discussion with other people. So just think about that. If you don't have to, if there's 2 of you in a group, you can still do 2 in a group. But I would think about, expanding and working with another group if there's just 2 of you. I have no problem with that. And then remember that your responsibility is at the back of that book. You are to actually, after it's all over with, you're to do the Strengths Finder assessment yourself. And then there's several things that you've got to report out on with that. And we're going to do the same thing whenever this activity. We're going to spend a class period talking nothing about but about the results of your personal assessment, and then the contents of the book and how we can relate it to leadership. But I think you're really going to enjoy completing this assignment, and I think we're going to enjoy spending some time talking about it in class when that time comes. I'd like to move forward. Are there any questions about what you've got to do up to week 8? Next week, I will have Dr. Revis to go ahead and to begin talking about week 11. That's going to be a big assignment, and you will you will want to go ahead and begin working on that as soon as you can with your group as well. Let's talk about, for the next few minutes, let's talk about the SIAP. I've begun getting task 1 in from several people, and I, for the most part, after your first, most of you sent it to me the first time, and I sent it back, and with some recommendations. When it came back, for the most part, everything that I asked for was done, and it was done well. The biggest thing to remember for those that have not submitted it yet is to make sure that you're covering all of the areas that I specifically outlined in here for you to cover. Do not leave anything out. Make sure that you talk about attendance. You show some information about attendance at your school. Discipline. You talk about it at your school. You show about it, and all of this other stuff. Make sure that you don't put anything in there that you don't need. Don't just copy and paste and put stuff in there that you don't need. And make sure that your narrative work, that you're introducing whatever it is you're talking about, that you're tying all of this together so that it flows, it makes sense. And actually, you know, when you finish task 1, at the end, you could do, as you're closing out, a narrative closes it out, and it leads directly in, you know, to your next task, task 2. Any questions from anybody about what it is that you've got to do with task 1? I need to see task 1 from everybody this week. If you haven't gotten it to me, I need to see task 1 this week, and I'd love to see task 2. Time's running out. Okay, so I have some task 2, and the task 2 that I have received. Libby, I think I got your task 2. Excellent job on that. I can't remember, and I've gone over this several times. You know, you're dealing with your teacher working condition survey or your advanced ed analysis project in those 5 areas. Are there any questions about what it is that you've got to do there? And follow the same format. Make sure your narrative work is there, that it flows, and it's not just, you haven't just, like, it doesn't look like you've just thrown stuff in there, that there's a rhyme and reason why you put it there. And when I read it, I understand it. Any questions about task 2? Okay, I mentioned task 3 to you, and this is your focus group project. This is where all the work you've done in task 1 and task 2, you're going to find a focus group, and you're going to talk to this focus group about the work you've done in task 2. You're going to say, this is what all of this looks like at my school. All of it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. You're going to talk about all of it. And make sure that your focus group is as a diverse group as you can make it, with people that are, you know, your internal and external stakeholders, as much as you can. I know that school is out now, that you may have to be creative with this. You may have to do it, you know, it could be your SIAP committee that you're working with. It could be, you could do it virtually if you have to, but just know that you've got to show evidence of presenting this to a group of people, okay, and giving them a chance to respond and ask questions, have input, and you've got to show this qualitative research. That's what that is. You've got to show that you've done that, and you know what this activity in task 3 looks like as you are moving forward in preparing the overall school improvement action plan. Any questions about task 3? Let's go on into task 4. After you've done your task 3, I've approved it, and you can go ahead and submit it for grade. You'll go into task 4. You're going to develop a document that specifies or shows availability of resources. Now you're working with 2 types of resources: human resources, people. That's the people that's going to help you get the job done. And the fiscal resources, that's the money that's needed to help make what needs to be done, make it happen. So you're going to specify what does the school, what's already there? Who are the people already at your school that can help support this school improvement plan? What resources are already at your school that you can use? And this is to support everything that you've talked about in task 1, 2, and 3 of the SIAP. You're going to also provide a plan for acquiring needed resources. And again, that's human and fiscal. You're going to talk about, now you're doing 2 things. You're going to talk about, okay, these are the people that I have at my school already that can do this and help get the job done. These are the resources that I have at our school already. And the fiscal resources could be that if you're working with a program, or you're working and you know that your principal uses Title I funds to help take care of that area, then you know that that money's already there. Or, you know, it could be other, I'm using that as an example. But there may be, you may be proposing something in your action plan. This is, the committee and I have decided that this is what we need. And you're going to talk about what you need, why you need it, you know, the purpose of it, or the purpose of, you know, it could be that, I'm just using this as an example. It could be that you need another third grade needs another teacher. When, you know, that's out of your hands, but you can make the recommendation, but you've got to tell why 3rd grade needs another teacher. And, you know, that's a human resource that you need. And then the fiscal resources is, if you're making this recommendation, you know, fiscally, how can another teacher be paid for? You know, could it be paid for through Title I funds? Could it be, you know, and I'm using that again as an example. That's just one example. There could be lots of other avenues that you could take as far as what you need to help accomplish the things that you're setting forth in your action plan for school improvement. Human and fiscal. That's all that goes into this section. Again, this narrative and graphic organizer will include all the necessary resources, human and fiscal, for the SIAP task 1 through 3. Now I want you to look what's in red. This will include the human resources necessary to implement the action plan from evidence 1. You're going to find it. How are you going to implement that action plan from evidence 1 in the APSL? Remember that action plan that if there are human and fiscal aspects of that action plan that you talked about, this is where you're going to bring it out again. You're going to extract it, and this is where you're going to talk about it again. The growth plan from evidence 2, the APTEL, the marketing plan from the SKIP, and the teacher working condition analysis project or advanced ed project from the CAP. You're going to go back and look at all of these plans, because this is where you would have thought about, we need people, we need things. This is where you're going to go pull it from. You're going to talk about here. Now, I would suggest that narratively you're going to talk about it, but you can actually show these, display these things, come up, be creative, come up with some type of display to visually help me see what you're talking about as well. Okay, I'm going to show you an example of something in just a minute. And then task 5. After you do all that, the candidate's going to produce a graphic organizer that clearly illustrates the following. Now, you know, in all the work you've done, you've had to do a graphic organizer from the very beginning when you did the APTIL. It's the same concept. The only thing is, I want you to think about that this is the culmination. This is the big deal. So you're going to go back to all that you've done and all those action plans you're done. You're going to take all of them and you're going to pull from them. You're going to extract from them all the stuff that you need to go into your final action plan in the SIAP. You're going to look at, again, the data collected and analyzed, the major strengths and opportunities for improvement identified by the stakeholders, the relationships that each of these will have with specific areas of student achievement. Remember, everything is about student achievement. Now, where am I going to find this? Again, this includes, as I said, the action plan from the APTIL, the growth plan from the APTIL, the marketing plan from the SCIP, and the teacher working conditions survey analysis project or advanced ed project from the CAP. Now, it's highly recommended that you compile these plans into one graphic organizer. It is also highly recommended that you use the same graphic organizer format that you've used from the very beginning. Now, you've got all of them. You're going to take all of those and you're going to put them into, organize them, and they're going to, in an orderly fashion, and you're going to extract from all of those all that you need to come up with your final action plan that you're going to present for overall school improvement in the SIAP. Okay, I'm going to show you something again in just a minute. Let's move on, and then we'll come back. I'll have questions and answers in just a minute. And then the final thing that you're going to do, remember those 21 competencies that you've worked with from the very beginning, starting with communication. There's 21 of them. Well, guess what? They haven't gone away. They're still there. You've got to address all 21 competencies. However, you're going to approach it differently, a little bit differently than you've done in the previous semesters. Remember, I told you that this semester was more of a self-reflection, looking at yourself. Well, guess what you're going to do? You're going to take each one of these competencies and you're going to start with communication. You're going to talk about communication. You're going to reflect, do a self-analysis on communication as it relates communication. What have I learned about communication and myself from being in this program of study, from my coursework? This would come from all the coursework. The example, the Johari window is just one small piece nugget of the things that you would refer to. I'm using that as an example. Okay, but it's a twofold thing. When I look at it and when the evaluator looks at it, they're going to look for two things. You learned about communication in many ways in your coursework, but you also learned a lot about communication in your clinical internship. So there's two things you've got to do for all 21 competencies. And this is what I want to see. The students get marked down in this area sometime because I don't know if the evaluator doesn't see it or doesn't take time to see it. So we're going to make sure that there's no question about anything. Let's look again at communication. When it comes to communication, You're going to put your heading there, communication. Underneath that, guess what? You're going to say, in my coursework, or in blah, 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 however you want to say it, you're going to talk about me, and you're going to finish it out, talk about examples of things that you reflected on, that you learned about communication and about yourself, about communication, this competency throughout the course, all 5 semesters. And then you're gonna skip down, you're gonna have a space, and then you're gonna say, in my clinical internship, and then you're gonna blah, 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 you're gonna talk about communication. 2 things, the coursework and your clinical internship for all 21 competencies. Does that make sense? You understand how, and I want to make sure that you delineate between the 2 when you do these. I clearly need to see that you've talked about your coursework first, you skip a space, and then you go into your clinical internship. I need to be able to distinctly see that you're talking about the 2 different ones. Okay. Now, I want to do this. Here it is. There it is. Okay. Now, this is the one that I've been showing you all along. I want to go to task 1 and task 2. I don't need to stop there. I don't need to camp out there. I need to go to task 3. I think you know what you've got to do. A lot of narrative work in there. Oh. I do want to show you something in task 3 that Michelle did that supports. Excuse me, it's going to take a little bit of a while. Any questions while I'm scrolling down at this point? Okay, that's task 2. I told you, hers is very comprehensive. Okay, I'll get there in a minute. Okay. But as I said, Michelle did an excellent job with her narrative transitions throughout her work on the SIAP. Okay, I'm just about there. I think task 2 goes on forever. Okay, here it is. No, participants. No, that's not it. Task 3. Well, it'll be worth the wait. Here it is. Here's task 3. Okay. I want you to see how she started out. The school data approach. The SIAP team gathered data on Shady Brook's academic accomplishments. Again, she starts out with like she's telling a story. And that's what you should do. You're telling a story about your school. And again, it flows throughout with the work that she's done. But this is what I wanted to show, because remember, you're working with a focus group. And I told you your focus group, you may have to be creative. Look at there. Zoom participants of the school-based focus group. This was during COVID, heavily during COVID. So I bet it still works. But she showed who was in the group, and then it also, if you Zoom, you need to show the Zoom link as well. You need to include that. But then look at what her teacher, principal, teacher, then she was creative. It was a teacher, but that teacher also had a child at that school, so that teacher could count as a parent. The same thing there. Then she found this person was a faith-based community partner, instructional coach. But this is, I would consider doing something like this. And then if you have to do a Zoom something with Zoom, then make sure that you put the link there and show evidence that, or either a screenshot of what you're doing. Okay. But then let's go into task 4. This is where you have to work with the human and physical aspects of resources. She talks about it. The purpose of the SIAP plan is to improve in the areas of communication, build parent involvement. She goes on and talks about that. But then this, I want you to see what she has done. And while she did a great job here, there's some things that I would have recommended that she even do differently with that. But she's talking about all of those things, that's going to require the human aspects of making this plan work, the physical aspects of making this plan work. She's narratively talking about it. Then I want you, this is a graphic organizer where she shows what she's talking about. The human and physical aspects of things. And she explains it. She visually talks about it. So I would consider, you need to consider that as well. And even in her narrative work, she even listed, like a staff retreat. She recommended that, but she talked about how much that staff, what it was going to cost, possibly where that money was going to come from through Title I funds. This is a recommendation. Now, again, it may not happen, but you can make the recommendation. You understand what I'm saying? You can make the recommendation. And then finally, then task 6 is where, again, no, this is the action plan. Task 5. Okay. And task 5, there's not going to be a lot of narrative work, but you need to have some. But then this is the glorified action plan. This is where all of those plans were put together into one very unique action plan with everything that you're going to present. And then finally, your 21 competencies. Okay, I know that's a big pill to swallow, but I felt like I needed to go ahead and, give it all to you so that you would be able to see the big picture at this point with us having just a few weeks left. Because while you've got 5 weeks left, remember, you don't have 5 weeks to complete all this. Remember, go back and look at your dates and know that, but when you get once you get past task 3, task 4, 5, and 6 are really not going to take you nearly as much time. Those are your biggies, task 1, 2, and 3. Task 4, 5, and 6, you've pretty much got everything you need. It's a matter of just going back, finding it, putting it together, and making it make sense, in how you're doing it. Okay. Questions? You still happy? I see Josh's emoji. But it is Josh, you matched that emoji at this moment. I need a smile from you. Okay, I got it. But
I think we can probably just, this is what I'm thinking, because I know that there's so much work and I'm like inside, I'm dying because I know how much there is to do. So you were talking about the competencies that we all have to do. That's something that we could totally knock out, you know, like that for
Yeah.
real.
And
You
again,
really can, because it's like you're saying, it's self-reflection. So you can do that right now, you know,
those are
or
things that you
whatever
can,
you want to do it. But I'm thinking in the back of my head, I'm like, I could just leave my laptop open and I can do 3 competencies a day. And
That's it.
once I do 3 competencies a day, but before I know it, I'm going to have all those suckers done, and then I won't have to worry
And
about
that-
it.
and
I can
that's a-
just focus on the rest of my tasks.
that's a good plan, Libby, you know, and that's how I would do it if I were you. I would think about, you know, mapping it out at this point, you know, what's got to be done, mapping it out. And honestly, if you would go ahead and get task 1, 2, and 3 done, just knock it out, then 4, 5, and 6, you could almost coast into getting those done by the time that they're due. The big thing is to get 1, 2, and 3 done so you can do 4 and 5 especially. 6, you can do that without having to do that, because that's a reflection on everything that you've done anyway, a self-reflection. But now remember that there's some things that you've got to complete for Dr. Revis as well. Your competency folio has got to be done. Now, think and work smart. The reflections that you're doing could also be used in that final competency folio that you've got to do. Don't work smart, okay? Don't do double work. Try to find in your reflections, work on artifacts and things. Talk about things that you know that you can turn around and use for Dr. Revis when you're completing the competencies there as well. Okay. Make it work smart. You know what you've got to do with your internship hours. And again, you've done it for 4 semesters. It's a matter of doing your last semester with your 80 hours and then pulling it all together. So one good thing about it, now we will not be coming the week of the 4th. The 4th is on a Monday. The 5th is on Tuesday. We will not be meeting that night. So that is a night that you make sure you use your time wisely. I won't bother you at all that week. You can bother me, but I won't bother you. Okay? If you need to bother me, it's okay. I just won't bother you that week. We're going to give you that time. So you'll have that whole week to work. But again, don't say, I know it's the 4th of July week, but you know what you've got to do. Okay? You're almost there. Map it out. Y'all are making me sad. I know you're thinking about all this. You've got to internalize all of it. I know. But and again, I understand. I've been right where you are. I won't ever forget, and I know you don't want to hear my old war stories, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I can remember when I was working on my doctorate degree. One summer, I was running a high school. I had to get my master schedule done, had to hire teachers and everything. I had to take 4 classes in one summer in a doctoral program. That's why I don't have any hair, probably. But anyway, I know I understand I understand where you are. You know, it's hard, but I can promise you this: you're going to make it. You're almost there. You're going to make it. Brandon, when you look at that little fella next to you, that's why you're doing what you're doing. Little girl, the daughter. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see. Yeah, that little one next to you. That's why you're doing what you're doing. That's why you're doing what you're doing. It's all gonna be worth it. You're all gonna do well. Okay. Call me this week if you need me. Send me work. I need to see it sooner than later, and make sure that when you send it to me, try to send it to me as I want the best that you can send me the first time. Okay? Because I don't want you to waste your time. Okay? I bragged on y'all again to Dr. Lamb yesterday. You're not going to let me down. I know that. I bragged on all of you, every one of you. Jasmine, I talked with him about you yesterday, and he's still working on that. So we, I'll get with you, just get through things. I'm working on things, so okay? Okay, black and red tonight. I didn't catch that.
It's spirit night, Gardner Webb spirit.
Okay. And I got so involved. I'm going to tell my secret what I was going to do, but I couldn't. If Dr. Revis had been here and I'd had time, I actually had two hats here. I was going to take, and I was going to switch to see if anybody noticed, but I didn't get a chance to do it. But I'm going to work on something. I will get you before it's over with. But anyway, I did think about it. I just didn't get a chance to put it into practice. I was too serious. Okay. Any questions? All hearts and minds clear, as they say in church. Everything good? Okay. Okay, we'll see y'all. Okay, bye-bye.
Dr. Stedman, I had a question
Sure.
about my hours.
Sure, go ahead, Melissa.
So as I said, I was going to that leadership conference this week with my principal. So altogether, it's going to be 24 hours.
You can't use 24 hours for any one thing.
Okay, so just pick like maybe one day.
Yes, talk with Dr. Revis.
Okay.
And just say, Dr. Revis, how many hours would you like for me to include with that?
Okay, so I can't count all 3 days.
You not just for conference. You can't do that. No.
Okay, because what it is it's like different PDs like every day. So then I'm gonna go back in the fall to train the staff, but I have to get trained to do the trainings.
But you're a student. You're not doing leadership stuff. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You will eventually, but
Mm-hmm.
you're not doing it yet. So we can't give you 24 hours credit for something that you're not actually leading.
Okay.
You're more of a student in this. We can give you some credit.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes. So just go ahead and get in contact with her and then see how to
just say, how many hours can I count towards this? And she'll tell you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Nazma, you have a question?
Yes, Dr. Stedman. I by mistake uploaded the assignment to your course, and I was supposed to submit it to Dr. Revis. I apologize for that.
Okay, that's it. The one I told you to see her about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. I just knew it needed some work, and I wanted her to look at it too. So that's okay. Just after she has looked at it, and you send it back to me then, and then I will look at it again. That's no big deal. Okay, so don't worry about it. That was not a negative. It's just that I knew that. No, I didn't want you to take it as it was just that I knew that you were going to need some work on this before it would be anywhere near being ready to move forward. But just see her about that. And if for some reason you can't get up with her, reach out to me again. Okay?
Absolutely. I made the changes, and I believe it has the updates that are needed. I uploaded it to her course shell.
Okay.
So as soon as I hear from her, and if there's more edits.
She is on vacation. I don't know if she'll see it. Send it to me. Go ahead and send it back to me. Okay.
Should I email it to you?
No, put it back in your Blackboard shell.
Okay.
Send it in there, and I will look at that because I don't want you waiting on her and that holding you up.
Okay.
So just go ahead and send it to me. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Stedman.
You are welcome, Nazma. Okay.
Have a wonderful day.
You too. Okay, bye-bye.